Welcome to the fifth edition of Score a Better Future Credit Conversations, presented by FICO. In this series, we break down different important topics around credit and your FICO scores. Thank you for joining us. My name is Keon Haley. I am the Program Manager for Score a Better Future. Today, I have the pleasure of having another conversation with Tom Quinn, Vice President of Scores, to talk about how to start building credit. So welcome back, Tom.
Hey, Keon, great to be back.
Yeah, great to see you again, Tom. So for those of you starting your credit journey, we often hear people feel like they are in a catch-22 situation where you need credit to build credit. So if you are new to credit and are wondering, how do I start building credit? We are here to assist you with answering that question today. So before we dive into building credit, it's critical to understand what credit is, especially when you're new to it. So Tom, could you give us a brief overview of credit and why it's important?
Sure. So credit at its simplest form allows you to borrow money for goods and services that you promise to pay back at a future time. And some examples of credit accounts would include things like mortgages, student loans, auto loans, credit cards, department store cards. I'm sure we're all aware of those. And while one can participate in the U.S. economy without credit, we're a pretty credit hungry society, and having credit and access to credit can make it a lot more convenient and can also help improve one's financial health if used responsibly. So creditors like lenders, merchants, or service providers issue credit to people based on their level of risk they pose as a borrower. This risk, and conversely a creditor's confidence, is often determined by your credit score and information in your credit report.
So yeah, Tom, can you expand on what a credit score is versus what a credit report is?
Sure, yeah, a lot of people get the two confused. And basically, your credit report is a record, almost like a report card, of how you've managed your credit obligations over time. In the US, there are three national credit bureaus. There's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they capture and store information on your payment history, your level of indebtedness, and your credit-seeking behaviors. So that's what a credit bureau is, or credit report. A credit score is a three-digit number based on information contained in the credit report. While there are several brands of credit scores out there in the marketplace, the most commonly used is what's called FICO scores. We get a lot of questions from people who think FICO is a credit bureau, but that's not the case. FICO is not a credit bureau. We're a company that takes that information and generates the FICO score algorithm that is used by lenders to assess credit.
Right. And so, yeah, so you mentioned the credit report. So, really, how does one start to build a credit history? And, really, what does it take to receive a valid FICO score?
Right. So in order to generate a score, we at FICO want to make sure that there's enough information in the credit report and recent information to feel that we can generate a score that is predictive and the lender can rely on. So there's a set of minimum scoring information that is required for us to be able to generate a score. And to receive a valid FICO score, the credit report must contain the following. You must have at least one credit account that's been open for 6 months or greater. You need at least one credit account that has been reported on or updated at the credit bureau within the past 6 months. And third, there can be no indication of deceased on the credit report. So if a consumer has, let's say, opened up a Best Buy or a Target credit card 7 months ago, they've used it and it's been reported and updated at the bureau, that would be enough information, a single credit obligation, to be able to generate a FICO score.
Got it. So let's talk about how to build credit from the ground up. So after someone makes the decision to start building credit, but they don't have any credit history, how can they actually begin doing that?
Yeah, that's a common question we get at FICO as well. But there are a variety of different ways that people can start to build the credit report up to be able to meet the minimum score criteria. And one way is to start with a credit card. So for example, if you have an existing relationship with a bank, a credit union, a community bank, etc., they likely already value your relationship with them and could use that to your advantage to see if you can qualify for a credit card with them. Another option is to get started with what's called an authorized user on a family member's credit card account. So the way this works is the primary account holder, let's say a parent, would need to contact a credit card issuer to get your name added to the account. And then once that takes place, that information on that credit card account will be sent to both the credit reporting agency or credit bureau for both the primary as well as as in your name as the authorized user. And the authorized user information can then be used to help you establish a score. And while it's not as weighted as heavily as other information in the credit report, it will still contribute to your ability to establish credit. A third option is what we call secured credit cards. And this works by you interact with the company that would issue the secured card and requires that you put down a security deposit to open that account, which that amount then becomes your credit limit. These are typically easier to qualify for because you're putting a security down, and the good news is they are typically reported to the credit reporting agencies just like a regular credit card. So that can be used to help establish credit and meet the minimum score criteria.
Got it. So to recap here, so you have a few options to start building with credit cards, such as opening a new credit card account, becoming an authorized user, or opening a secured card. Are there other options to build good credit history without using credit cards?
Sure. So there's two types of credit basically reported to the bureau. One is revolving credit, which is like a credit card. The other is installment loans. And so you can also leverage the installment loan as a means to try to establish your credit bureau report. For example, for many consumers, their first credit obligation is a student loan if they're going to university after high school. By paying off these installment loans in regular intervals over a set period of time, you can start to build a credit history with that type of loan. If you're having trouble getting approved for a loan, like an auto loan, for example, you can ask someone close to you to co-sign. So I know when I first started out of college, my dad had to co-sign for my car loan. And that was a means for where both parties, my dad and myself, shared equal responsibility for the debt. And the loan appeared on both of our credit reports. And as long as there's no payment missed, then there'll be no negative information reported to the bureau. And it's a good way to build credit if you have that option. Other types of credit or relationships that maybe people don't think of as credit would be utilities, cable services, cellular information, network accounts, etc. And they all require you to sign contracts with the understanding that you'll pay for their services as agreed each month. So in essence, you're getting a little bit of a type of credit with that relationship. The good news is FICO scores have always considered telco and utility payment data that is furnished to the U.S. credit bureaus, but the information is not widely captured in the traditional credit bureau files. Sometimes even landlords will report your rental history to the credit bureaus. While this is not a common practice per se, it is increasing, and it may be worth asking your property managers if they would do this or if they can start this reporting on your rental payment to the reporting agencies to help you establish credit.
Yeah, I know my student loan was the first loan that I actually ever had. So what else would you recommend to those new to credit? What should they do? Any recommendations of some things that they can do to get started? And are there any resources that they can actually access to help them along their journey?
Yes, there's literally a ton of information out on the internet about trying to establish credit and ways you can do that. So That's a really good idea to check that out if you're in that situation. At myfico.com, we have a large amount of free credit educational content, including information about each of the factors in your FICO score. And we also have a forum section on the My FICO site, which is another great resource under the community tab to ask questions and get information on how to establish credit and, understand the experiences and paths that other consumers in similar situations have taken. We also have a Score a Better Future program from FICO, which you know well, Keon, as you manage that. And that offers free credit educational events throughout the year where people can learn about credit and their FICO scores. So make sure to check back to a Score Better Future website for updates on future events there. And then most importantly, or just as important, I should say, is once you have established your credit, you've worked hard to do that, it's important to monitor your credit report and scores to make sure that they are accurate and working for you as you progress through your credit journey.
Yeah, Tom, I think that last one is just as important as all the rest, right? Really monitoring and making sure that all information is accurate is really important. And I just want to stress that a little bit more. So where can you find your FICO scores and your credit reports, speaking of?
So there's several places where this can be found, your FICO scores, once you've got one. You can find it from an authorized FICO score retailer. There's myfico.com. Our partner Experian also has FICO scores at experian.com. Or you may be able to access it through your bank or lender if they participate in the FICO Score Open Access Program. And this is typically where they will post your FICO score on your online account along with the educational content. You can also check your reports from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies at annualcreditreport.com. There's no charge to access your report there. And it's a great source to check at least once a year or twice a year, kind of like when we check our smoke detectors 2 times a year, and just make sure that everything's working out correctly.
Yeah. So, thanks again, Tom, for all the really great information. I really do believe it was helpful for those just looking to start their credit journey. And thank you to all of you for joining us for this episode of Score a Better Future Credit Conversations. We really appreciate it. And have a great day.
Thanks.